morning, guys. Welcome back to another vlog. Thursday morning, August 24th. Just riding in to work as I normally do. Actually, a beautiful, beautiful day. It's around 72 degrees right now. Highs only in the 80s today, so it's going to be super, super good. Super good weather for riding today, so I'm really looking forward to that. Don't know if you guys have noticed, but I've got a little bit of a different setup right here, as you can tell. I've got this bar here. I think it's called an extender bar. Usually bicyclists use this to mount accessories to their handlebars, and I've actually used this now for mounting to my handlebars so I can mount my camera. Reason I'm doing that is because of the infamous blue painter's tape covered thumb screw here. It was actually marring up my tank, so excuse me. This now actually has moved away from the handlebar, so now it actually when I turn my handlebars, it's not actually hitting the tank, so that's actually good. On the phone and not even really paying attention. Anyway, so basically, as you can tell right here, you've got this bar. It extends with two extenders off the main handlebar, and then you can mount your accessories on there. And it also lets you mount in the center portion, where on the original handlebars you wouldn't be able to, because that's the clamp that actually holds it down to the forks. So I'm gonna try this out. It's still a little loose. It's a little bit jerry-rigged right now, so I'm still kind of dialing that in, but hopefully it'll be okay. Now, it does change the angle a little bit. This camera right here, usually you're able to see my reservoir and maybe the back end of my phone, and you can't see that right now looking at this camera. I'm not sure if I like that. I liked the ability to see the reservoir and whatnot. I just kind of gave that shot a little bit of context, and now you just see me. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll change it back. And or maybe I'll just leave this. So I don't know. We'll just see how it is for now. We'll go with that. Let me stop and get some gas. All right. Alright guys, I will be right back after filling up. Alright guys, we're back. Just loaded up with some fuel. And here we go. Alright guys, so I have a little topic I wanted to discuss today. And before I do that, I actually wanted to wish my parents a happy 40th anniversary. Today is their anniversary, and they've been together for 40 years, and which is an amazing accomplishment and such a rarity nowadays. So I wanted to wish them a happy anniversary and congratulate them on such hard work that they put into their marriage and into raising our family. So I appreciate you, Mom and Dad. Love you guys. Thank you for all that you do for us. So back to the topic. So I wanted to discuss, and this kind of follows up to my last vlog where I was discussing lane splitting. My buddy, who's, like I was saying in my last vlog, is thinking about becoming a motorcycle rider, also was asking me in terms of best starter bikes for beginners. And I know this is also another topic that's touched by, you know, probably every motovlogger out there. And I guess this is kind of like the prerequisite. Like when you start motovlogging, these are the few subjects you touch on right off the bat to kind of just get your channel going. And I guess that's what I'm doing too. Okay, so he asked me, you know, what do you think is a good starter bike? Okay, so it's not a simple. There's no simple answer to that. It depends on you know, a lot of factors. My friend, he's a smaller guy. You know, he's super lightweight. He's like a lightweight, like a featherweight, you know. Whereas like for me, like, you know, I'm like, you know, it would be like, you know, a heavyweight or middleweight or whatever you want to say. So he would be considered, you know, pretty smaller weight guy. And you know, obviously he's starting off. And so my general rule of thumb is, well, let me go back and first start saying that my first bike was a Monster 696. So that's like kind of in the same class as the SVs, or like, you know, the CB 500s, those kind of things. So it's like a 500 cc. Well, it's actually a 690 cc bike, but it's still in that 500 class. So it's not like super powerful, although for your first bike, it can be considered kind of powerful. It was, I think, max horse was like maybe 76 horse, maybe. That was my first bike. Of course, just like most people, the MSF class, I think we were on 250 Rebels, and we actually took our test on 250 Rebels. Before that, when I first got into motorcycling, like another one of my friends who kind of introduced me to it, or he actually let me ride his bike. He wanted to, after I got my learner's permit, he let me ride his, oh man, I don't even remember. It was like a late 80s, I think. It was like a CF400, Honda CF400, really nice bike. It was like a cruiser, like a lightweight cruiser. It was a really comfortable bike, easy to ride. So that's kind of my background. My first bike, like I said, Monster 696. If I could do it all over again, I probably wouldn't choose the 696. I think for me personally, and I'm just speaking for myself, that was a bit too much bike for my first bike. And I would have done a legitimate 300 class bike. I wouldn't have done like a 250. I think that would have been a little bit too small. And you know, you also have to take into consideration, like, will you get bored of the bike? So that kind of falls in. So I think like a legitimate 300 class bike would have been perfect. So obviously then that kind of segues into what my thoughts are now. I told him, like, you know, a 300 to 500 class is where you want to be. You know, just like a lot of motovloggers say, it's up to your personal preference. If you think you can handle a liter bike, hey, go for it. It's a free country. You know, obviously the US, wherever you're watching this, it depends how your licensing works. Here in the US, you basically get your permit, take your test, and then you can just go, you can buy the biggest bike there is. You can go buy a liter bike for your first bike, and there's no restrictions. In other countries, there are restrictions, which even though it would take longer to get your license, and it's a little bit of pain in the butt, I would actually prefer there be class restrictions, because that forces a motorcyclist to to develop their skill set. And you know, for somebody, for me, I think that would have been awesome to do. I feel like right now, even though like I'm riding a liter bike right now, I still feel like there are some like fundamental skills that I probably don't have a full grasp or concept of, and I could definitely be better at doing. And of course that comes with practice and experience, but I think, you know, obviously learning those skill sets with a smaller bike and then graduating to a larger bike probably would have been a better and more natural progression. So I told him to do a 300 to 500 class. Because of its size, 300 probably would have been fine. And the 300 class bikes nowadays are actually amazing bikes. A lot of manufacturers, you know, like Yamaha, Honda, KTM, they're really focused and dialed in onto the 300 beginners market now, and they're putting a lot of R&D and a lot of effort and you know, money into the development of 300cc bikes. I personally would have gotten the KTM Duke 390 or the RC 390, depending on if you want to ride like a standard, or which is the Duke, or a sport bike type, which is the RC. They have the highest amount of horsepower in their class at around 43 to 45 BPH, which is class leading. If you want an overall really refined bike, I told him the Yamaha R3 probably is your best bet. He's not so much of a sport bike guy, so that's why the standard, that's why I also offered the Duke 390. He's actually looking at the Rebel 500 that Honda just put out, I believe this past year, which is really good looking bike. Obviously, MSF class, I was on a Rebel 250, and I think they've discontinued the 250, and it's now a 300, and then the big brother to that has the 500. Really good looking bikes, actually. So he's looking at that. All of these bikes, I think, are really good starter bikes. Now, what I was actually thinking was, even though I had this 1100 Evo, I was actually thinking that maybe next year or the year after, possibly getting a 300. Now, definitely not trading this or selling this, keeping this, but also having a 300. Kind of for two reasons. I think commuting on a 300 bike, on city roads is probably going to be a little bit easier than on this 1100. This 1100 is kind of like made to rip around at higher speeds, highway speeds. I think maybe commuting will be a little bit easier on that. And then also, the more important thing is that I want to still be able to develop the skills that I probably should have developed as a more of a beginner rider on that 300. So what I can do is kind of use that 300, ride it. So I'm kind of like a little bit, I'm going backwards a little bit, you know, in my development as a rider, taking a step back, taking one step back in order to take 2 or 3 forward. That's what I'm thinking about doing. Getting the 300, ripping around on the 300 and possibly even tracking the 300. So I'll probably do like an R3 or an RC 390 and actually taking it out to the track, you know, so it's like, you know, taking it out to a track in this, you know, the super lightweight category, and, you know, developing my skills as a rider that way also. And then hopefully that'll translate to like bigger leader bikes. My eventual goal is to get a Panigale. And so that's what I'm actually thinking. So I told him about that too, and he actually thought that was a good idea. And I told him, you know, don't make that mistake. Don't make the mistake that I made. You know, you want to develop these skills right from the get-go, so you don't have to go back. So so yeah. So in short, go with the smaller displacement bike. My personal opinion, 300 to 500 cc's is probably good, but ultimately the best bike for you is the one that you like and the one that you feel most comfortable on. So if you feel comfortable on a super sport like a 600, hey, that's great. If you feel comfortable on a leader bike, that's fine too. So main thing is to like your bike, feel safe on it, and have fun. And that's the main thing. All right, guys, I'm almost at work, so thank you for joining me on the ride in. Let me know if you guys like this angle, if you prefer the other angle a little bit better. It looks like the camera has dipped a little bit, so I don't even know if I'm fully in frame, which would really suck if I'm not. Then I'm gonna have to record this whole thing all over again. But if not, that's cool. Let me know what you think. If you have any questions, put them in the comments section. Let me know what bikes you have ridden, what you started off at, where you are now, and if you haven't already, please like and subscribe. I really appreciate that. And actually, from the last video, I think I got 3 new subscribers. So thank you guys very much. Appreciate that. Appreciate your support. We're still extremely small, but you know, we're growing. So I appreciate that. So hit that like and subscribe, and I'll catch you on the next one.
Ha ha ha.